At a family dinner, my brother said, "Just make sure you're not around when we leave for Italy," adding it would be awkward if I tried to tag along. My mom agreed, saying, "It's just not your place anymore." I simply raised my glass and said, "Understood." Later that evening, I silently canceled all of their tickets and waited. They were denied boarding at check-in. "Fix this now," my sister texted. I smiled, replying that I honestly didn't think they'd become my enemies that night. I'd been planning the trip for weeks, excited to see their reactions. If someone had told me 24 hours before that dinner that things would fall apart so quickly, I would have laughed. I thought it would be a rare moment where everything just worked. Free of judgment or arguments, just pure appreciation. It was a warm Friday night, the kind of weather that suggests good things are on the way. I drove up to my parents' house with a bottle of wine and a dumb grin. It had been a while since I'd just shown up to sit with them like we used to. I walked in like a fool, expecting to hear, "We're proud of you," or at least a thank you. 3 weeks earlier, I had gotten a promotion that changed my entire financial bracket. I held off on telling them, wanting to make it special and wrap it in something memorable. So, I booked a first-class family trip to Italy, Florence, Rome, and Venice with 5-star hotels. I paid for every last cent in full, telling myself it was worth putting a dent in my savings for my family. When I finally told them, I expected surprise, maybe tears, and at the very least, gratitude. Instead, I got something I still can't fully explain. My mom gave a half smile and said, "That's generous of you." My sister asked if her friend Mia could come along. My dad raised his eyebrows like he couldn't believe I had that much money. And my brother, pouring another glass of wine, said something I'll never forget. "Just make sure you're not around when we leave for Italy. It would be awkward if she tried to tag along." I thought he was kidding, waiting for the punchline, but he wasn't smiling. My mom didn't even flinch, saying the trip was just about us. "You've got your life now, and that's great," she said, "but it's not really your place anymore." I just stared at them. My sister was already showing my mom bikini pictures on her phone, not even glancing my way. No one asked what I meant. When I said, "Understood," I said it calmly, even raising my glass as if toasting their plan. They clinked glasses with me, and my dad started laughing and talking about gelato flavors. They had no idea. That night, I went back to my apartment, sat at my desk, and opened my laptop. The flight confirmation emails were still in my inbox. One by one, I pulled them up, logged into the airline websites, and canceled everything, every hotel reservation, every ticket, even the car service I had booked. It took me 15 minutes. The next morning, no one called or checked in. They just kept chatting in the group chat about what to pack and how to get through customs faster. There were no second thoughts or apologies. They genuinely thought they could use me as an ATM and then leave me out of it. 2 days later, they showed up at the airport in their travel outfits, dragging brand new luggage they must have bought just for the trip. My sister posted a selfie in front of the terminal with the caption, "Cow baby." They made it to the check-in counter, where they were all denied boarding one by one. That's when the texts started coming in. The first one was from my sister, "Fix this now." It lit up my screen as I was pouring my second coffee. I just watched it. I didn't answer. Then 3 more came in. "Why are our tickets canceled? They said you did it. Lisa, are you _serious?" I stayed silent, wanting them to sit with it for a while. By then, I was watching their meltdown unfold on the airline app. All for non-refundable. Tickets were voided with a red X beside them. They had tried to check in, but were denied. They tried again at the counter, nothing. Then the group chat blew up. "Dad, what's happening?" "Sister, they won't let us board." "Brother, Lisa, if this is some kind of joke, undo it now." "Mom, call us immediately. This isn't funny." I waited, letting them spiral and taste the confusion. Then I texted them just once. "It's just not your place anymore." After a minute of silence, the chat exploded. My sister was the loudest, sending, 13 messages in 5 minutes. Blaming me for ruining her year and saying she had bought new outfits and scheduled hair appointments. She called me cruel, selfish, and manipulative before switching to guilt-tripping, asking how I could do this. To my own family. My brother sent half-baked threats, the kind he throws around when he's cornered. He claimed I owed them for baiting them with a trip just to pull it out from under them. My mom accused me of planning this from the beginning, of weaponizing generosity. Around noon, I got a call from my dad. I let it ring twice, then picked up the third time. "You embarrassed us," he said. I didn't respond. "You made us look like fools in public at an international check-in counter. Do you think that's funny?" He waited, but I said nothing. Then I hung up. After that, they were quiet for a bit. I think the full weight of what I had done started to hit them. This wasn't just a prank or a tantrum. It was permanent. That afternoon, I logged into my bank. I canceled my sister's standing $11,300 a month transfer she used for her nanny, groceries, and other things. Then I shut down the card she had on my account, which she'd used to order $200 worth of bath products just last week. Next, I called the dealership and gave them the address of the white SUV in my parents' driveway, which had my name on the title. It was gone by 3 p.m. By 5 p.m., I called my brother's landlord. The lease was in my name, and he hadn't paid a cent of the $1,000 a month rent in over half a year. I gave them notice that I'd be stepping out of the lease, giving them 30 days to deal with him. That night, the group chat tried again. My mom said, "Let's be rational." My sister begged, "Please, I have no way to pay the nanny now." My brother wrote, "I'll figure it out, but what you did was messed up." There were no real apologies or remorse, just panic. They thought I was still the version of me who needed their connection, who bought their belonging or silence. They hadn't realized that version of me had disappeared a long time ago. What they didn't know, and what they still refused to believe, was that I meant it. This wasn't revenge, it was closure. And they weren't ready for it. By the next morning, their anger had shifted to desperation. The group chat had gone quiet. Overnight, which I expected, they were regrouping. I pictured them all back at my parents' house, phones out, arguing about how to handle me. I figured my mom was trying to smooth things over, my sister was pacing, and my dad was probably swearing under his breath while my brother blamed everyone but himself. At 8:12 a.m., I heard banging on my front door. I didn't need to look through the peephole to know it was my sister. She was yelling my name like it was urgent. I just stood in the kitchen, sipping coffee and listening. "This isn't fair, Lisa. You don't just cut people off. It's not how this works." She pounded on the door again, then eventually stormed off. I watched her from the window as she got into her car and sat there, typing furiously on her phone. A minute later, another string of messages blew up my screen. "Congrats! The nanny quit this morning. She said she can't rely on a paycheck that might vanish, so now I'm stuck with everything." It's followed by, "You did this for what?" It's because of one dinner conversation, and then you need help. I didn't respond. I just logged into my bank again and double-checked. Transfers to her were canceled and the card was disabled. I had no doubt the nanny walked. She probably thought this was just another one of my sister's dramas and didn't want to get caught. In the middle of it, smart woman. A few hours later, my phone rang again. It was my dad. I let it go to voicemail like I had with all of them. This time, his message was longer. Started, "Lisa. Your mother's upset. I'm trying to hold this together. But you're putting us in a position we never imagined being in." He went on about how they had been planning that trip as a new beginning, meant to heal the distance between us. He even used the word overreacted when referring to his behavior. Then came the part that made me laugh. "You might want to think twice before burning bridges. You never know when you'll need family again." I saved the message, just in case I ever forgot why I stopped answering their calls. Later that afternoon, my mom tried again, first with a text, "Can we meet?" Just talk. I feel like we're all saying things we don't mean. Then a 3-minute voicemail followed. She said I was being cold, holding a grudge. And that family isn't something you can opt out of just because your feelings got hurt. She said cutting them off financially was spiteful, and that I'd regret it. I listened to the whole thing without a single reaction. They still thought this was temporary a tantrum. They thought I'd eventually come crawling back, wallet in hand, apologizing for overstepping. But what they didn't understand, what none of them wanted to understand, was that this wasn't a tantrum. This was clarity. That trip was supposed to be a turning point, and it was, just not in the way they expected. They made it clear I wasn't part of their circle anymore. I was just the woman who paid for it. So I took myself out of the equation. Completely. And what came next was entirely up to them. 3 days of silence was the first sign something was off. Not a single message. No phone calls. Not even a fake apology. After the airport meltdown and financial fallout, I expected them to come at me again, screaming, bargaining, and blaming. Instead, there was nothing. It felt like they had all vanished, but it didn't feel like acceptance. It felt like they were regrouping. I was right. On Thursday morning, just after 10 a.m., I got a call from HR at my company. A calm professional voice asked if I had a moment to discuss a complaint that had been submitted. That word complaint made my chest tighten for a second. I stepped into a meeting room and asked what this was about. They said they'd received an anonymous tip through the company ethics portal. Someone had submitted a detailed email claiming I'd misused company funds to pay for a personal family vacation, lead on my expense reports, and use company travel reimbursements to cover personal favors. There were attachments, fake invoices, screenshots, and even a fabricated company memo referencing the Italy trip as part of an executive retreat. I knew instantly who was behind it. They had taken their humiliation and turned it into sabotage. Luckily, I had never charged a single Italy expense to the company. Everything came out of my own account. HR said the documents looked suspicious, names were spelled wrong, and the formatting was off. They said they'd open a formal review, but they already had someone cross-checking everything I'd filed. By 3 p.m., they cleared me. But that didn't matter. The intent was clear. They weren't just mad. They were trying to quietly and systematically destroy something I'd built on my own. I didn't react. I just sent a text to my sister. Solid attempt. Try spelling the VP's name right next time. 10 minutes later, she replied, "No clue what you're talking about," followed by, "You always think everyone's out to get you. That's not healthy." And finally, "Let me know when you're ready to act like a grown-up." That last one made me laugh. I was still shaking my head when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a woman I didn't recognize. In her late 30s, with a worn-out expression, holding a little boy in one arm and a canvas bag in the other. She asked if I was Lisa, and I nodded. "I'm Clara. I used to work for your sister, Annie." She said, "I'm sorry to show up like this, but I thought you should see this before she buries it." She handed me a flash drive, explaining that she was quitting because things had gotten too toxic in that house. She said she didn't want to get involved, but had saved the files just in case. I offered her money, but she refused. She lied too. "You a lot," Clara said before leaving. I closed the door, plugged the drive into my laptop, and opened the folder. It was worse than I had imagined. There were audio recordings of my sister talking to friends and my mom, bragging, mocking, and calling me a glorified ATM. She said things like, "She'll always pay if you throw in a guilt trip." One clip was her explaining how she manipulated me into thinking the Italy trip was a family celebration, when it was really just their reward for dealing with my holier-than-thou attitude. My mom's voice popped up more than once, agreeing and telling her not to worry because I never had a spine. There was more screenshots of group texts I wasn't in. Photos of my apartment she must have taken secretly with captions like, "Guess, who's paying rent for us all?" And even a draft of an email they almost sent to my boss a week earlier, accusing me of workplace harassment. I stared at the screen for a long time, then copied everything to an encrypted drive. I didn't say anything for a while. I didn't send the files or threaten them. I just sat with it until around midnight. That's when I texted her one last time. I know everything. Good luck. She didn't reply, but my mom did. At 1:43 a.m., she sent 2 words. Please stop. The tone had changed. They had tried using me, then guilt, then threats, then sabotage. Now they were scared, okay? And I hadn't even started. After that night, I heard nothing from my sister for a full week. No calls, no messages, no sarcastic texts. It was as if she had evaporated. I knew that kind of silence from her wasn't peace. It was survival mode. She was hiding, buying time. My mom was the only one who kept reaching out. Every few days, I'd get a short, vague message like, "We need to talk," or "Whatever this is, it's gone too far." Then one day, she stopped trying altogether. That's when I realized she must have seen the contents of the flash drive. Once she knew what I had, the game changed. My dad was radio silent. Not even a passive-aggressive forwarded article. He had taken his embarrassment and sealed it off, as he always did, thinking if he didn't acknowledge it, it didn't happen. My brother was the last to show his hand. Came in the form of an eviction notice. After I pulled out of the lease, the property manager gave him 30 days to either take over the lease or leave. He couldn't afford it. Instead of calling me or admitting defeat, he tried to sue me for emotional distress. He sent me a copy of the handwritten paperwork claiming I had caused him to lose housing stability and that I owed him 6 months of future rent for trauma. It was so ridiculous, I kept it in a drawer just in case I ever forgot the level of entitlement I was dealing with. I didn't respond. Hi, I let him file it, and it was thrown out almost immediately. A few days later, he showed up at my building. Watched from my window as he stood on the sidewalk, yelling into his phone. He motioned as if he were ready to throw something. Then he just stopped and looked up at my window. For a second, he stared like he didn't recognize the person on the other side of the glass anymore. Then he turned and walked off. That same night, my sister cracked. She sent me a long, sloppy, emotional paragraph saying she was sorry. That she had made a mistake, that she missed me, and that I had always been the strong one. She didn't mean what she said at dinner and asked if we could meet to talk. I didn't reply. Instead, I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer. I had been thinking about it for a while. The car was still under my name. I didn't own the property where my parents lived, but I had been quietly covering the taxes for 2 years. That ended. Official letters were sent and documents were filed. I revoked power of attorney privileges my dad didn't even know he still had on one of my older accounts. I checked every joint detail I'd ever shared with any of them. Bit by bit, I erased them from every system, every connection. As I watched them scramble to recover what they had lost, I realized something unexpected. They weren't just angry. They were terrified of a version of me they had never known, one who didn't need them, who had stopped hoping they would change. By now, they finally understood there was no coming back. It's been just over 3 months since everything ended. At first, I kept checking my phone, half expecting another explosion, another angry voicemail, or another guilt-laced message, but there was nothing. The noise slowly stopped. Total silence. My sister tried to hang on the longest. Her messages started thinning out with fewer insults and more forced positivity. She sent a photo of her kid painting at daycare with no caption. A week later, she followed up with a longer message about how she had reflected and grown from the experience. Hoping we could talk again someday, I read it, then archived it. The same woman who laughed at me behind my back, tried to ruin my job and used me for months now, wanted a reset as if nothing had happened. But there's no reset after what she did. There's no version of me that forgets any of it. My brother gave up quicker. I found out through a mutual acquaintance that he was crashing on a friend's couch and trying to sell sneakers online to make rent. He never messaged again after the court paperwork was tossed. I think he got the message once and for all. The free ride was over. My parents were the last to go quiet. My mom made one final attempt, sending a long handwritten letter through the mail. It started off kind, almost too kind. Then it got strange. She said she understood why I was angry, but also claimed she never meant to exclude me. That it was just a misunderstanding and families argue all the time. Then she wrote something I'll never forget. "You were never supposed to take it so personally." That sentence sat with me for days. My father didn't send anything, no letter, no message. He just disappeared from everything, even blocking me on his phone, as if I'd done something unforgivable, as if I had betrayed them. And maybe in their world, I did. I stopped being the one who funded their lives, who stayed quiet, who let it slide. I've heard through a few people that they tell their version of the story to anyone who will listen, that I've turned on them after a petty disagreement, that I'm selfish, arrogant, and unstable, and that I let money change me. What they don't say, what they never will say, is what really happened. They don't talk about how they laughed while excluding me from a trip I paid for. They don't mention the lies, the sabotage, or the footage. They don't talk about how they looked me in the eyes and made it clear I was nothing more than a credit card to them. No, that part they leave out. And that's fine. They can build whatever story they need to feel like the victims. But here's the truth. They thought I would never leave because I never had before. They thought they could humiliate me, lie to me, and still keep my money and support. They thought I'd always be the one who forgave, who paid, who tried to fix what they broke. They were wrong. We don't speak anymore. There are no calls, no birthdays, no awkward holidays, no fake apologies, just clean, empty space. They hate me now, not for what I did, but because I finally made them live without me. The update: it's been 3 more weeks since that last wave of silence. No contact, no letters, no surprise drop-ins. The line is clean now, like someone finally cut the wire that had been fraying for years. For the first time in my life, my days are quiet, peaceful in a way I didn't know I needed. Number. One's asking for money. No one's guilting me into flying out for a holiday or helping to pay off unexpected expenses. My phone doesn't vibrate at midnight with my sister's emergencies or my dad's vague one-word text demanding I call back. They're gone. Not just physically, but mentally. They've shifted into a place I no longer occupy, and my life is better. I get up earlier now, not because I have to, but because I want to. I've started cooking again, real meals, not takeout. I go for walks after work. I actually sleep through the night. My apartment feels bigger, cleaner. I even took down some of the old family pictures I used to keep around out of guilt and replaced them with photos of places I've been and people who didn't ask anything from me other than to show up and be myself. A few people in my life know the full story. I don't tell it often, but when I do, their reactions are always the same, some version of, "I can't believe you went through that." But the truth is, I didn't go through it. I lived it for years. I accepted it. I normalized it. It's only now, with distance, that I can really see it for what it was. A slow erosion. Death by 1,000 withdrawals. Love that came with invoices. Support that came with strings. And family that only existed when I paid for the glue to hold it together. I'm not bitter, not even angry anymore. That part's burned off. What's left is something sharper. Clarity. They never saw me as a person, just a resource. And when I stopped being useful, they tried to punish me for it. But the beautiful thing about being done is that there's nothing left to lose. No more trying to fix what was never real. No more hoping they'll wake up and see me for who I actually am. I've deleted their numbers, blocked their emails, and cut off the remaining accounts they quietly depended on. It's not revenge, it's just reality. Stop trying to be the daughter, the sister, the provider they imagined. Now I'm just Lisa. And that's more than enough. Some weekends I'll catch myself reaching for the phone out of habit, thinking maybe I should check in. Then I remember there's nothing left to check in on. Their absence doesn't ache anymore. It just feels quiet. Like background noise that finally stopped.